there are two different types of mutation. This is more medical, but I'll go over it. There's something called drift and something called shift. Drift is when you have a minor modification in the composition, whereas you will still have some immunity because the virus has not completely changed. But a shift is when you have a complete change in the genetic material of the virus, where it's as if your body has never seen this virus before. Yeah, well, as I said, the Tamiflu is can prevent you from getting the virus. I think I showed that in one of the slides.
So when it's taken at the beginning of the...
So this is after exposure, meaning you don't have the disease, you've been exposed, but you take Tamiflu to prevent you from getting the infection. It does work theoretically, but like I said, we are restricting who to give it to because of the concern that when you use it so much, it's going to stop working at all because the virus is going to acquire resistance.
I would like to take the opportunity to say something. Viruses, they go from one child to another more frequently than adults. So at school, it's more frequent place to catch a virus than at home. And when a sick child comes back, and he will infect all the family just because he caught the virus from school. So this is a good opportunity, especially that we found the H1N1 virus, that at school we take these measures that we are taking, like hygiene, washing hands, and preventing from receiving children sick, among a full class, because even if they have only coughing, if they are coughing or sneezing, some children can be affected more seriously than others just by catching the same virus.
Right. I mean, this is why I said it is the responsibility of a parent to keep the child at home.
And for school not to receive this kind of sick children in class, because they can affect houses.
Right.
And hygiene and bathrooms also, it's very important.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I said during epidemics you need to have very frequent cleaning and...
If we can clarify now the issue of closing the school.
Okay, so the issue of closing a school.
Keeping siblings at home was okay. I mean, if you have one infected at home, what's that?
So obviously that is a very sensitive issue, because as a school president or director, you have the responsibility to make decisions that make sense. And because of the panic that is surrounding us with the H1N1 pandemic, a lot of these schools have felt urged to close schools. Let me tell you what is my concern about closing the school. If we're closing a school part of a plan to confine people to their houses, which is what happened in Mexico at the beginning of the epidemic, they shut the country completely off. No supermarkets, no movies, no banks, no schools, etc. That is a reasonable approach, because then everyone is staying in their surrounding home. The ones who are incubating will manifest the disease, etc., will transmit to the household, and then it dies there. And then, after a certain period, you go back. But the problem is closing a school in Lebanon, but people will not go to school, but they go visit their neighbors and grandma, and many of the students work in movie theaters, etc. So what we have done with this is prolonging the epidemic in this particular school, because now we have closed, children did not come to school, okay, but then child X next week acquired the infection from an ACS siblings, because there are many children who have siblings in other schools, and then he brings back that virus to his classroom, and then the epidemic in the classroom starts again. So a better approach will be to say, okay, if you're sick, don't come home. Don't come to school. to decrease the level of infection in this particular school. But the problem is the epidemic is probably going to last throughout the winter, and then therefore you might be forced taking a decision, okay, I'm going to close this week, and then next week open, and then re-close. If the virus becomes so widespread, and more importantly, if we start seeing more morbidity and mortality, then maybe, we should shut down everything, schools, banks, universities, etc. Then this might happen. But I don't think we're at this level now. And I do fully understand the responsibility of a president who said at that point when he had 30 cases, oh, we need to close school because this is a major problem. But I think if you think about it in terms of prospectively, how would this affect the epidemic in the school, it's not the solution, because the children are going to bringing the virus, and then it will spread again.
Actually, in the case of the middle school, it had spread, we suspected, because not all of the cases were confirmed, to 10% of the students in the middle school. And it was much higher in the middle school than it was in the other schools. And so that's why we closed the middle school down for that week. Yesterday, we had 1% of the middle school absent, which meant we... now, that's not to say they're not going to go out someplace else and bring it back in again. This school has been a concern, but we're really trying, and we did have to close 2 classes because it was spreading rapidly in those classes, but we're trying very hard. I agree with you. We're trying very hard
to contain.
Not to close the school down.
But also in the U.S., sometimes they close the schools for academic reasons. Like if you have 50% of your class absent, how can you go on giving your lectures and curriculum, etc.? Then they found it was unfair to the ones who were sick, and so sometimes the decision to close some schools in the U.S. at least has been based on academically when the majority of the class is absent.
When I was thinking to get him coming through or not, I was very much worried. What if his case gets more complicated and I am done with the 48 hours, that I should get coming through then. So how can we take the decision? I mean, always influenza or H1N1 gets complicated, or if it gets complicated, it's coming through direct medication, or then we will get antibiotics or something.
Well, we don't have any other choices. The influenza drugs that are available all over the world for the H1N1 are Tamiflu and Zanamivir, and we don't have Zanamivir. So your only choice is Tamiflu, which is an antiviral. So I don't think you should make the decision, do I treat or not treat. It should be your physician, your pediatrician. Even without bringing the child to him, over the phone, you explain to him what he has. If you tell him he has, if he vomited 50 times and he's high temperature, 40, etc., over the phone he's going to tell you, okay, start Tamiflu. The other antibiotics are for a bacterial superinfection. It will not come up, the decision will not come up at the beginning. This is when the influenza virus has caused what it caused, and then usually you start worrying about the bacterial infection at least 5 to 7 days within the illness. So I wouldn't give my child Augmentin or Placide or whatever.